Good afternoon, District 96. I am pleased to welcome everyone to our first online District International Speech Contest. Chief Judge, have all the contest judges, timers, and counters been briefed, and are we ready to proceed with the contest?
Madam Contest Chair, all the judges, timers, and ballot counters had all been briefed. We are ready to go.
All right. Yay! Each contestant will be introduced only by their name and the title of their speech. I will then repeat the title of their speech and the contestant's name. Stacy Marshall, good times? Good times, Stacy Marshall.
The dedication on the bench simply read, a cherished spot to sit a while and remember the good times. It seemed straightforward enough, but I was perplexed, so I sat. What are the good times? Sure, I can look back upon specific moments from my childhood that make me smile. Growing up on a farm and exploring the backcountry on horseback. Living in the Philippines for a year as an exchange student. Or performing with Phil Collins and Aerosmith at the MTV Europe Pop Show. These are all good times. But I struggle when I start to think closer to the present. Actually, the last 20 years. The breakup of a marriage that represents over 60% of your adult life prompts a lot of reflection. When we met, I had been perpetually single, and I decided that I needed a comedic intervention. Toastmasters contest season was just heating up, and I plotted to write a humorous speech about how to find a mate. At the time, I was working as an employment counselor, so I thought, why not conduct my love search the same way I coached my clients to conduct their job search? I would network, I would cold call potential applicants, and then I would interview them. So, tell me about your past experience. Any special skills that you'd like to share? Then I would call their exes as references. What would you say are his weaknesses? Would you hire him back if you had the chance? This became the premise of my speech, and I managed to win my way to the district final. There were 500 people in the audience that night, and after my speech, I had 5 applicants for the job. My husband was the successful candidate. We were together for 18 years when it ended. Being alone after so long is enlightening. The silence is deafening. It becomes very easy to isolate yourself. I started asking myself, have you talked to a human today? And then I would just get in my car and go to the mall and shop for nothing but a connection. The first year was the hardest in my journey of rediscovery. I started to try new things, ukulele classes, salsa classes, Spanish classes, just getting out in the world, even when I didn't want to. I discovered that concerts were a great way to be out without being obviously alone. Everyone's focused on the band, not the blonde sitting by herself. I went to 78 concerts the first year. I went to Croatia on my own and learned to embrace the solitude of discovery. I went to Cuba on my own and learned to embrace the appreciation that Cuban men have for blonde women with curves. I even found my way back to Toastmasters. I'm well through it now. I've moved on. There's no pining, no longing for the past. I'm happy, actually in a better place than I've been for a long time. But that bench made me realize that I hadn't reconciled. How do I look back upon all our trips and adventures with fondness? I'm sure it just takes time, but I don't know how to view my past. I don't want to erase it. It existed. I'm trying hard to learn from it and to remember that it brought me to this moment and to my next adventure. In the midst of it, my ex's view was, We had an amazing marriage. You're an incredible woman. We had the time of our lives. I just need to move on now. But for me, all those good times that certainly seemed good at the time were now tainted. It was like looking back through a filter of knowledge, a filter of what I know now that I didn't know then. And I struggle to explain it. I struggle, but I know I'm not alone. Even without a divorce or major life event, so many people look to the past with sadness that it's past, that they can't go back to the good old days, that times have changed. Bob Marley once said, "The good times are the sad thoughts of tomorrow." Why do we give them so much power? I mean, the past is just the past. It informs the future, but it doesn't determine it. Ideally, you learn from all those good and tough times. The past is like a playing field. You can run the tape and watch your performance with the goal of always improving. I've played the tape of my marriage. I watched my performance. I didn't cheat, and I didn't make the decision to go. But I was there. I contributed. There are things I did right, and there are things I'll do differently next time. And I'm committed to doing that for me and my next partner. But as Wayne Dyer said, the wake doesn't drive the boat. It's just the trail you leave behind. My past is my past, and there are good times that I may eventually be able to look upon as good again. And there are bad times that I'm working very hard to learn from to improve my today. These are the lessons we take with us. We have to remember that every moment is a choice. You have a choice every second to react how you always have or how you wish you had. You can choose to give or to take, to love or to hate, to be kind or to be indifferent, to feel gratitude or to feel resentment. And all those choices matter. I didn't have a choice when he decided to go, but I own all the choices now. So I sat on that bench and I started to appreciate that moment, sitting by the ocean, nature, the sound of kids playing, happiness, families walking together, community, couples holding hands, hope. I realized that perhaps this was the good time that the bench was referring to. The good time is now. The good time is this moment. So let's choose to embrace this moment and this good time. Madam Chair.
William Baker, don't give up, get up. Don't give up, get up. William Baker.
There's a really good reason why my favorite color is yellow. Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests. In 1983, I was living in Ottawa with my wife and 3 young daughters. We had just built a magnificent new home. I was driving my dream car, a flashy red Mustang convertible, and I was president of a high-tech company that had just gone public. And based on the shares that I owned, I was a newly minted millionaire. Yes, I was living my dream. Our company was just about to introduce a new product with the world's first hands-free speakerphone embedded right in it. And hey, I was smug, arrogant, and supremely confident. Wow, have you ever been in that zone? It's a great feeling, isn't it? Yeah, I was there until late October of that year. I was in a management meeting. We were discussing, finalizing plans for our new product rollout. I looked around. I said, wow, looks like we're ready to go. All the heads bobbed up and down. Oh, except that one over in the corner. That was Dave, our chief engineer. David, what's up? Yeah, sorry, boss, but I don't think we're quite ready to go. You see, that small problem we had with the main circuit board, yeah, it just got bigger. And in fact, we've just found 4 fatal flaws, and the board needs to be completely redesigned. Sorry, boss, it could take 6 months. Months? Oh my gosh, we don't have months. We have a fully staffed production facility standing by and ready to go. We're also going through cash faster than whiskey at an Irish wake. Oh my goodness. I wondered if we were going to survive. Well, the engineering team got busy, geared up, and furiously worked at getting a new production model of that board completed. Unfortunately, 4 months later, we ran out of time and money. The company crashed and burned. For me, I had to lay off 200 loyal workers who had families to support, and of course, deal with very unhappy shareholders. And finally, with no other choice, the company was put into bankruptcy. What that meant for me was my total net worth was wiped right out. And in fact, we owed a substantial sum of money to the bank because I'd borrowed money to buy company stock. My family was devastated. My dream crashed and splattered as I went from rich to wretched overnight. And there I was, unemployed, unable to make our mortgage payments, and living on credit cards that were fast running out of room. I was deflated. I was discouraged. I was desolate. What should I do? Give up? Well, fortunately, my wife Elizabeth had the answer. Yes, she said, honey, please mow the lawn. When she says please like that, I know the only answer is yes, dear. As I walked out to the garden shed, I noticed that the lawn had turned yellow. Invading dandelions had filled up the backyard like a occupying yellow army. Now I was really annoyed because 3 weeks ago I had cut off their little heads and put their bodies into the backyard. How could they possibly have come back so soon? Now I was getting really angry, furious, in fact, and then, I stopped and thought and marveled at the amazing creation of nature that dandelions truly were. I had chopped them up to bits, and here they were. They had come back, taller, stronger. They didn't complain. They didn't give excuses. They didn't feel sorry for themselves. They simply came back. You see, dandelions don't give up. They get up. And if they could do it, so could I. Inspired and motivated by that blooming battalion of fearless floral fighters, I began the process of recovering from the wreckage. In order to pay off the bank loans, we sold our house and my dream car. And not only that, I had to borrow money from my parents. Oh yeah, I felt really embarrassed and really low at that point. A few weeks later, however, my entrepreneurial spirit started to come back, and I launched an electronic media business. And over the next 3 years of struggle and late nights and difficulties, that business finally became successful. So much so that we were able to generate enough cash to fully recover. Hey, I was back like a resurrected dandelion. I felt like a king of the jungle. a majestic lion. Or should I say a dandelion? Since that time, I've certainly had other setbacks in my career and in my life. But every time I did, I would think back to that beautiful ballet of fierce flowers and resolve not to give up, but to get up. Fellow Toastmasters, if you should know someone that stumbled on their own pathway to success, perhaps you would recommend to them that they follow the example of the amazing, the extraordinary, the indomitable yellow dandelion, who taught me, don't give up, get up. Contest chair.
Matthew Wong, taking stock, Matthew Wong.
Fellow Toastmasters and guests, welcome. Have you ever had a negative experience that you found yourself reliving over and over again? Can I get a quick show of hands there? Again, maybe a few people throw up their hands. Anybody had that before? Okay, plenty of hands going up. That's some great participation. You know we were a bunch of Toastmasters. Good stuff. This is a pretty common thing to happen. But when we relive negative experiences, we don't just relive the memory. We relive the emotions with it. The anger, the frustration, the anxiety. And it can put us in a bad mood that could last weeks, months, even years. Today I'm going to tell you a story about a time when I got in this kind of negative loop. And I'm going to instead share with you a way to get into a positive loop so you can replace that bad mood with a good mood or that frustration with optimism. A couple of years ago, I'm biking on my way to work. I'm going straight along a road. And this car just speeds from right up behind me, turns right across the front of my bike. In order to not hit it, I had to swerve off the road into a bush, over the handlebars, boom, hit the ground. I did a quick check, make sure I'm okay, nothing broken. And I see the car park about 20 feet away. And my blood starts to boil. There's only been a few times in my life where I would say I completely lost control. This was definitely one of those times. By the way, it's 8:30 in the morning here. There's people on their way to work. There's buses going by. I don't care. I just start storming towards the car, screaming, get out of the car! Get out of the car! This woman, 45, 50, small Asian woman, hops out. And you know those people who, no matter how blatantly they do something wrong, they just accept no responsibility for it? Anybody know somebody? I'm sure we all know somebody like that, right? This woman was one of those people, and straight away, she's on the offensive. She's blaming me for everything, which of course gets me more angry. I end up shouting at her for 2 minutes, trying to explain to her why she was in the wrong. And guys, to be honest, it wasn't a good look. If any of you had been there that day and you'd seen me, you would have been thinking, my God, what's this lunatic doing to this poor woman? I realized eventually that there's no reasoning with her. I said, look, the chain on my bike is broken. It costs $30 for a new chain. Just give me $30 for a new chain. You won't hear from me again. Simple, right? She refuses. Again, the anger is boiling up. I'm getting frustrated. I get into work that morning and I'm thinking, okay, what can I do about this? I text my friend who's a lawyer. I explained to him what happened and I said, hey, Cormac, is there any way you can use your fancy lawyer terminology to give this woman, give her a bit of a scare into giving me the $30? He said, Matt, absolutely not. I am a professional. I'm not going to scare people into giving my friends money. I said, you know, when you put it like that, that is completely reasonable. An hour later, I get a phone call. Hi, this is Paul at Arthur Cox, attorney of law. I believe you had an incident with my client this morning. This woman's lawyer called me to say that she was suffering from a mental breakdown due to me shouting at her, and she was pressing charges. I'm freaking out. I hang up the phone. I call Cormac. Cormac, what do I do? This woman's lawyers call me. They're pressing charges. He's just laughing on the other end. I was like, Cormac, this is serious. Why are you laughing? He said, because Matt, that was me who just called you. So yes, my friend was too professional to scare that woman, but not too professional to give one of his best friends a full-on panic attack. Over the next few weeks, I kept reliving this incident because I felt wronged. But every time I thought of the woman or what happened, I was getting angry. I was getting frustrated. And the worst part was I kept talking about it. It was only when I mentioned this whole thing to a friend for probably the third time, he just said, Matt, what are you doing? Just let it go. It took that moment that was the moment of clarity I needed for the penny to drop. And I just suddenly realized the only one suffering throughout this whole ordeal was me. And the worst part was I was doing it to myself. I knew I had to do something about it. So I tried to do the opposite of this focusing on the negativity. I said, okay, I'm going to start focusing on the good stuff. I started practicing gratitude. Every morning, I think of a few things I was grateful for. And after a few weeks, I realized that I'd automatically trained my brain to then start finding other positive things throughout the rest of the day without even having to try. And the more things I found, the happier I got. And the happier I got, the more things I found. And that is how you get in a positive loop. I know a lot of people, and if I said to them, are you happy? They'd say, not quite, but I'll be happy when I get that job, leave that job, get that relationship, whatever it is. But the happiness never comes because there's always another when. The question I have for you guys today, why can't we be happy right now? If you can't appreciate the things you already have, you won't appreciate the things that you think you want. We have the power to control our own focus. So let's use it to focus on what we're grateful for. And in turn, it'll lead to a happier life. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Tanya Horne, there's power in the pause. There's power in the pause. Tanya Horne.
There's power in the pause. Can you feel it? Madam Chair, fellow Toastmasters, everyone joining us on YouTube and Zoom land. Have you ever had a maybe someday? One of those thoughts that rolls around in your head where you're, really wanting to do something, but you've got all kinds of reasons why not, justifiers, excuses. I know for me, one of my biggest maybe somedays was to travel to the UK. Now I had a friend, a really good friend that over the years became more like family. And his mom would come from the UK every year. And for 20 years, she would come and spend weeks with us in the summer. And her question was always, when are you going to come to the UK? When are you going to come to my place? And every year my answer was, maybe someday. Those maybe some days, like maybe someday I'll get that promotion. Maybe someday I'll learn that instrument. Maybe someday I'll travel to that place. Maybe someday I'll lose that weight. Maybe someday I'll read that book. Maybe someday I'll be on big stages. Now, it wasn't that I didn't want to go to the UK. Of course I wanted to, but I had so many reasons why I couldn't get there. Now, granted, they were good reasons. The top of the list was food, shelter, those things that we have to pay every month. And year after year after year, that thought that went around in my head, that I couldn't quite get there. But alas, 2 years ago, I was given an opportunity. I got the phone call. We're having a wedding. It's in the UK. Are you coming now? Now, I want you to understand that I still didn't have the money, but I now had something, a purpose to work towards. And I became bigger than my reasons why not. So I started saving money like a squirrel, socking it away. I had no idea how much money I'd need, but I knew it would be a lot. And with 2 years to save, I started cutting back on some things. I ate out less. I got another job. I started working towards that purpose because I had a reason to do so. So 3 months out, and we're needing to plan the trip. So I now have all this money in the bank, but what am I going to do for this plan? Now, it was my daughter, my youngest daughter, who had her trip planned to the second. The planes, trains, automobiles that she was going to take, and I started feeling anxiety about that. And then, of course, there's my son, who I describe as Peter Pan, adventurous soul that he is. He goes, Mom, just buy the ticket, get there and figure it out while you can. And that made me nervous. But it sounded a little bit more exciting. A choose your own adventure? Why not? You only live once. So when I ended up in Africa, definitely not somewhere that I intended to go, and I'm standing with people that I'm meeting on this journey, and they're telling me about their experiences, and I'm seeing pictures of monkeys climbing up onto this man's shoulder. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to do that. And he says, oh, it's at this waterfall. And I leaned in and I said, is there any hiking? Because I don't know if you can tell on the video, but I don't consider myself a hiker. As a matter of fact, I have a problem walking to the local 7-Eleven without feeling like I need a treat just for making it there. So it was a little scary to me. But he said, oh, no. You get there and the waterfall's right there. I'm like, perfect, sign me up. So we drive 3 hours out into the desert. And I can feel the nervousness and excitement because it's an unknown thing. And as I'm walking up to the waterfall and I'm like, yeah, it's going to be a great time, great day, I had that moment of panic as I realized that, yeah, the waterfall's right there. 150 meters down, he failed to mention that point. And his idea of hiking and mine are completely different at that point. Leadership, when we're called to, adjusts and pivots. And in that moment, I found the power in the pause. Because I had 2 choices that day. 1, sit on the bench at the top of the waterfall and watch everyone else have a rich, full experience of life. Or 2, become a hiker and descend down, knowing that I would then have to ascend up. So I did that, and the electricity in me was magic. And born out of that, so many things have changed. And when I was riding a camel in the Sahara Desert, I was like, this is it. This is what an electric, full, rich life feels like, and I want more. So when I got home, I looked at Google, and I was like, we traveled 37,000 kilometers by plane, train, and car. I drove on the opposite side of the road, something I would have never done before then. I rode camels, I touched monkeys, I had an epic adventure. But when I came home, 2 weeks after that, COVID-19, the gravity of that hit me. And I started to go into that old story of panic and depression and, oh my God, what am I going to do? What can I do? What will I do? In the power of the pause. As the globe takes a pause, what am I willing to do? So I saw a 21-day meditation. Grab onto that. Have you ever been asked to do anything like that and stay consistent to it? It had accountability built into it. And as I came up against the stuff over and over and over again, I was standing at that new precipice. I have 2 choices: to stay here or move through it. And as I found more and more power in the pause of life. I started walking towards the things that are most important to me. In the last 45 days, I have now started a YouTube channel. I've created wealth beyond measure. I received a check the other day that actually astounded me because it was more than I made in the whole last year. And I'm wondering, is there a place where you could dust off your maybe someday, take another look? Could you possibly find your power in this global pause, Madam Chair?
Kerry Deschamps, what's next? What's next, Kerry Deschamps?
Are you challenged with these famous words from Gandhi? Be the change you want to see in the world. Words like this offer us much, a dash of inspiration, a different perspective, and a feeling of delight. All amazing benefits, but I wanted, desired, needed more. So what's next? I pondered and pondered, nothing. And so I needed to go on a discovery of digging deep into these words of Gandhi. As I share my journey of learning along the way, I hope there'll be some insights for you and seeing the change that these words can make. So let's get discovering together. Oh, did I tell you I just returned from a discovery? It was a discovery of motivational interviewing. I realized as an employment skills facilitator, I was thinking that motivational interviewing was a new, improved technique of doing job interviews. Not so. As I was explaining enthusiastically to my wife, it's really about helping others change. And without taking a breath, and very rapidly and emotionally, she said to me, "You better not be trying to change me." I paused, smiled, and calmly responded, "After all my learnings, dear, you won't even know that I'm trying to change you." It seems that sometimes I apply Gandhi's quote the same way that many others might. You need to change. You be the change. And so I wanted to slow down and really seep in his words of wisdom. And I did that by breaking it into 3 parts. Part number 1, be the change. Part number 2, you want to see. And part number 3, in the world. So let's work through these, starting with 3, moving towards 1. In the world. Are there any world changers out there? Just go ahead and wave. In my experience, most of us don't look at things from a world perspective. We look at it as an individual perspective. We want to change a spouse, a boss, a child, a coworker. We just don't look at it from the perspective of the world. I know my wife would be very happy with just changing me. So a learning that I gained from this is to start to look beyond the small things. The change of putting tools away or cleaning the closet becomes small, and looking at bigger, meatier, extending things that would hit the world, that would make an impact on individuals. Now let's move into the second point. You want to see. Now you want to see is a tough one because it means it's personal. It's very, very introspective. It's looking at yourself. A journey I was willing to take. So I got a cork board and 2 colored stickies. On the yellow ones, I put all the positive people, all the positive, encouraging activities in my life. And on the red, I put all the hurtful people, the negative things that happened to me. And as I looked at this whole corkboard, I noticed a couple things. Here's what I saw. I saw when I was young, I had very little red. Yes, I had some. I had a learning disability. I had black rimmed glasses. People made fun of me. I was not very good at school and learning was not easy for me. And so I felt worthless. But there was lots of yellow. There were teachers, there were coaches, there were parents, my parents. They all built into me. They encouraged me. They told me, just keep doing it. Do your best. And that eventually allowed me to become better. As I looked at the rest of my chart, I noticed a span of about 12 years where I made a big career change, where there was lots of red. I started to work more with people, and that's a challenge. Some of the people that were in positions ahead of me, that were looking after me, operated in a way that hurt me and maybe hurt others. In many ways, I noticed that these people were insecure in their management leadership. They were micromanagers. They were people that manipulated, that wanted to be on the stage, that wanted to step over people to achieve. They were narcissistic. And so this had a very painful hurt on me. But as I looked at this, I realized I have a lot of pain in this. And it's really that pain that's going to improve the world. It's not the pleasure or the passion that's going to make a difference in the world. It'll make a difference with some people and the people around me. But it's through my pain that I'm going to change the world. And so that leads us into the last point, be the change. This is really talking about you, looking at you. Now try this activity either today or maybe at home. Go ahead, look at someone you want to change and tell them, hey, I'm going to change you. See how it works. Didn't work well when I tried it on my wife. At the end of the day, change happens in us. So as I looked through all this learning in Gandhi's quote, I realized that maybe the quote by John Quincy Adams really motivates and sticks with me. If your actions inspire people to dream more, to learn more, to do more, to be more, you're a leader. Those are the opposite qualities of the pain that I carried around. So shifting that was my insight. So what next? Keep working through that. What's next for you? Does that challenge you more? Be the change that you want to see in the world? Well, my next is this. I'm off to another discovery of emotional intelligence. So until we meet again, ta-ta, Madam Chair.
Scott Hayward, A Kindergartner's Guide for Grown-Ups Seeking Spectacular Success. A Kindergartner's Guide for Grown-Ups Seeking Spectacular Success, Scott Hayward.
I remember my first physics experiment studying the effects of gravity. I was 5 years old. You know what? It was a spectacular success. I'd been out shopping all morning with my mom. I just wanted to go home and watch my favorite cartoon, Scooby-Dooby-Doo. When we pulled into the driveway, Mom started talking to the neighbor forever about boring grown-up stuff. I walked over to the porch, and the milkman had come. He left 2 big glass jugs of milk with red handles. I wish Grandpa was here to see me. He says he's so proud of his big, strong grandson. They're up to the top of my shoes. What if I drop them? If they break, Mom would be so mad. When I knocked a glass off the coffee table, it was okay. I don't want to get in trouble. Do I risk it? Madam Contest Chair, fellow kindergarten graduates, is anyone curious what happened next? Great. Go to the organic dairy section at Thrifty's, buy 2 large glass jugs of milk, stand on your porch, lift them to the top of your shoes, And you too can have a spectacular success. None of you will do it. Not one. The risk is clear. The reward, unknown. So you play it safe. Are your past mistakes piled like bricks in a wall that mark your comfort zone? Over here, it's predictable. It's a compromise. It's also possible that over there is where you find true success. The risk is clear. The reward, unknown. After university, I joined a company where I had great coworkers and lots of career opportunities. Until that changed. A few years ago, the company moved most of its operations out of Vancouver. I compromised. I clung to predictability. I quit 1,000 times in my head, and even once in a Toastmasters speech. Then I remembered my father telling me how he approached life decisions. He drew a line down the middle of a blank sheet of paper. On one side, he wrote the pros. On the other, he wrote the cons. He decided. Then he tore up that paper and he never looked back. Dad moved forward. Last summer, I drew a line down the middle of a blank sheet of paper. On one side, I wrote, keeping a predictable paycheck. On the other, seeking career success. The risk was clear. The reward, unknown. I shredded my piece of paper. Bzzz. And after 21 years, I quit my job. I went over my wall. Hey, you disappeared. It's dark over here. And as calm as a midsummer night. If you explore patiently, you'll discover that when the sun rises, you can move your wall. Discomfort brings new strength. Unpredictability brings new perspectives. Risk brings a world of new possibilities. I found 2 jobs, one coaching software teams and the other teaching part-time. I have no idea how my new life will turn out. It's just like that moment when I heard a crash. Mom yelled, my feet felt wet. And when I saw the ocean of milk, I knew I was in big trouble. Are you okay? Tell Mommy what happened. Sweetie, it's all right. You were just trying to help, weren't you? Mom doesn't know I did that on purpose. And Mom took me inside. She gave me dry socks and sat me on the couch with my favorite blanket. Mom doesn't know. I know. Mom doesn't know when I'm not telling the truth. Imagine the possibilities and the responsibilities of making good choices like a big boy. Then Mom brought me 2 chocolate chip cookies and the last glass of milk in the fridge. And She turned on cartoons. Scooby-Doo, where are you? Over here! 2020 will always remind us that we don't know what's next. When this quarantine is over and I go to grade 1, your wall will still be there, keeping you safe or holding you back. When the risk is clear, brave the dark unknown. When the sun rises, you'll discover your path to spectacular success. Madam Contest Chair.
Amirova. The stronger the storm, Amirova.
Enough, enough, enough. I can't take this torment anymore. I'm so lost. I have to end this agony now. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, have you ever felt lost in the turmoil of your thoughts? If so, you know how hard it is to stay calm in the middle of the crisis. External storms outside triggered such a turmoil in me, to the point I almost took my own life 8 years ago from the rooftop of my house in Kazakhstan. Kazakhs are nomads. We survived centuries of storms by staying calm and following the stars. My North Star, my compass, was my beloved grandpa, Ata. Tall, with a big smile, he always stayed calm and vigilant in the middle of tornadoes of life. My first storm hit me at age 9. I lost Ata. Without compass, I started losing my way. But winds of change blow constantly. On the outside, you could see a jet setter with perfectly styled hair, signing $1 million contracts, happily married, beautiful house, living a perfect dream life with no storms around. But inside, I was lost, like a feather in the wind. And life brings new storms, like a global financial crisis, crushing dreams. My country collapsed, my career collapsed, and my marriage collapsed. And here I am at 36 under a raging thunderstorm, soaking wet, ready to jump 50 feet below from the rooftop of my dream home. Home I built brick by brick with my husband, my nest of peace and tranquility. I even painted bedrooms for children I will never have. It's enough, enough, enough. Suddenly, amid the clash of thunder and lightning, I hear a voice in my head. Bibi, stop. What are you doing? Oh, Grandpa, I can't take this torment anymore. I'm so lost, Ata. You can take this life, start a new one. But how? Remember what I always told you. The stronger the storm, the calmer your mind must be. Think of moments you were at peace. And just as he came, he was gone. Think of moments I was at peace. When I practiced yoga at university, Ata is right. I need to start a new life. I don't know about you, but I have started by shaving off all my perfect hair. Next up, India, a land of yoga. and chaos, full of honking cars and colors like a rainbow after a storm. Yoga gurus showed me the way to peace and tranquility, mindfulness. Hours and hours of silent meditation calmed down the chaos in my mind. With a calm mind, I started a new life with you in Canada, and I'm paying it forward by teaching yoga. My hair is back, and I am back, surrounded by love and in love. My new North Star, my compass, is daily mindfulness practice. The place of peace and tranquility is not in your job, not in your house, and not in your relationships. It's in your mind. Last year, I heard the words that no patient ever wants to hear from her doctor. You have cancer. This time, I remember. The stronger the storm, the calmer your mind must be. I will not let this storm to crush me like before. You and I are in the middle of an unprecedented crisis. How we respond is vital. With daily mindfulness practice, your mind will stay calm and vigilant. And when your mind is calm, you can find a way out of any crisis and storms. You can practice mindfulness anyway. And mindfulness is just like public speaking. You need to practice it again and again. Practice mindful walking, practice mindful cooking, practice mindful eating, whatever you choose. Practice mindfulness every chance you get. And remember, the stronger the storms, the calmer your mind must be. Madam Chair.
Madam Contest Chair, all the ballots have been received, so the ballot counters and myself are ready to proceed to the ballot counting room.
Was that not a great contest? Now let's get to know our contestants. I'd like to introduce my exuberant friend, our contestant interviewer, club growth director, program quality director-elect, distinguished Toastmaster, Miss Mimi Vanderheide.
Thank you, Madam Contest Chair. This technology is just keeping us on our toes today, isn't it? Fellow Toastmasters, our lineup of speech contestants today, what an adventure they must have had. Not only watching for your speech, your stage area, not only watching for all those things, but making sure the technology is working, make sure we can hear them all over the province. So hats off to you guys, that's amazing. Okay, so we're going to interview our contestants in the same order that they spoke. So please help me welcome Stacy on behalf of J80 and Just Pros Toastmasters Club. Can we see you, Stacy? Oh, keep losing my paper.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Better now.
You can take a deep breath and
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I didn't think it's been a different kind of nerve-wracking doing it this way, but the regular nerve-wracking kicked in right before, so it's good.
That's amazing. The fight or flight. How many of you had that, right? So Stacy, just give a little snippet of your Toastmasters career, how long you've been a Toastmasters, and why did you start?
So I joined Toastmasters in 1998 in Maple Ridge with our illustrious chair. And then I had a 22-year hiatus and found my way back just over a year ago, and am in Just Pros now. So it's been a very staggered career with a big gap in the middle.
Wow, 22 years. So what would you say to other people who had taken a hiatus and are kind of maybe humming and hawing about joining Toastmasters again?
I would say decide why you want to get back into it and find the right club. When I decided to rejoin, I actually made my way back out to Maple Ridge because I saw that Carol and a few of the other members from that long ago were still there. I asked their advice and I went to 8 different clubs before I chose Just Pros, because it's really about finding the right fit for what you want to work on and how you want to develop. So I found my home.
That's amazing. I so wish we had more than one club where I'm at. If you want to join Toastmasters, you got one option. So it's amazing to see as well as a different aspect of it. In your speech, you mentioned a couple of countries that you'd visited, but on your profile, you said you have country 50 in mind. Can you give us a little bit of idea of what 50 is and where?
Well, 50 was supposed to have happened in conjunction with my 50th birthday that got COVIDed. So I was on the fence. It was probably going to be South Africa, Namibia as that adventure. But the other option was Tuvalu, because I have a thing about islands and the fact that they are completely separate and their culture develops in that way. I find it really interesting. And I thought, what better place to spend my 50th birthday than a country whose airport call letters are fun?
Nice. I'm assuming that's PH-UN?
No, it is FUN. The capital of Tuvalu, if you don't know, is Funafuti. So AKA, like YVR, their call letters are fun.
Nice. Very nice. And congratulations, Stacy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker was William, speaking on behalf of H73 and Beachcombers. Are you on mute, William?
No. Oh, maybe I'm on mute. Hold on.
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay.
If that is you.
Someone nicely unmuted me.
Oh, is that sweet?
I know. There are times when I think my wife would like to have that mute button and at her command.
A remote control to remote control your world, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Great movie, by the way. So, William, just a quick snippet of your Toastmasters career. When did you start and why?
I started in the mid-'80s in Ottawa at Carlingwood Toastmasters Club. And like Stacy, I had a little bit of a break. But when I arrived in British Columbia, I got very involved in North Vancouver clubs. And then when I moved over to the Sunshine Coast, I joined Morning Stars, Toastmasters, and then Beachcombers. So yeah, it's been a wonderful experience. I would highly recommend it to anyone. I was a very shy child growing up, and Toastmasters has done amazing work on me and for me in that intervening period.
That's amazing. On your profile, you talked about curling, and in the north up where I live, it's a big sport with hockey, of course. However, I was curious, how did you get started in curling, and how has it really helped your life, your career, and your business that you spoke of in your speech?
Sure. I started curling when I was 15 up in Whitehorse in the Yukon. Yeah. And I was very active up there for a couple of years. But when I moved out, there were no other opportunities. And then, I went through at any rate, I ended up moving to Gibson's on the Sunshine Coast, where they have a curling club that I can walk to. And so I began curling there. And of course, the game had changed tremendously over the years.
Yes.
And so I had to basically relearn it. It's been a wonderful experience, great way to meet people. It's a very social sport. And I really love it because it's forgiving. You get 2 shots every time. You can screw up the first one. You get a do-over. I love that.
Amazing. And then unless you're a third, you've got people coming after you who can fix your mistakes. Excellent. Thank you so much, William.
Sure.
Next, we have Matthew on behalf of B21 and Positive Expressions.
Hey, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks.
Take a deep breath now and relax a little bit.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. So give us a little snippet of your Toastmasters career and why you got started.
So I've been going for just over 3 years now, and why I started it was because I think when I was in school and when I was in university, I had to do a decent few presentations, so I'd have a bit of public speaking experience from that. But then when I kind of entered the workforce, the sort of line of work I was in and everything, I just noticed I never really had to do anything like that. And the odd time I did then get a presentation, I'd get really nervous about it, and I'd be, thinking about it all day. And yeah, I just knew I didn't want to keep having to deal with that over the years. So I figured, okay, I'll just try to get this handle. I'll take some coaching or go to Toastmasters, try to improve that skill set.
Very, very good. That's basically probably the biggest reason everybody comes, is that skill set for sure. On your profile, you talked about people with balanced lives inspire you. And I was curious what ways you've created balance for yourself in this last 2 months or 6 weeks.
Okay, well, I guess, yeah, it's maybe been more challenging in the last 6 weeks or so. But I mean, okay, so I guess when I talk about balance, I'm thinking about the work side of things, the relationship side of things, and health is probably maybe the 3 pillars, I'd say. So I'm working from home, so I guess that's taking care of itself to an extent, but then also just making sure I'm getting regular interaction with people, trying to get people on Skype and have conversations. So, you kind of maintain those working relationships as well. In terms of friends and all that, yeah, it's been more difficult with some people being a bit more cautious than others. Some are very much staying in their own very small circles, say, and they're reluctant to meet up with people. So I have some important people that have let me into their little bubble and me to them. So I guess I'm trying to fulfill that side of things in that regard. And in terms of the health stuff, yeah, I've tried to put together my own home gym, trying to figure out how to exercise without, being able to go to somewhere with equipment, trying to think of creative ways of getting around that. And yeah, just trying to keep everything not as, up to speed as usual, but enough to get by right now.
That's amazing. And good luck to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tanya, on behalf of N77 and Seymour Speakers, which I have had the opportunity to visit, it was amazing. Can we see her? I saw Matthew.
I can see
you. There, hi. Nice to see you again on tech, if not. So, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there for a second. Tell me about how long you've been a Toastmaster and why did you start?
So all in all, I've been a Toastmaster for about 5 years. This last stint, after a short break, has been 2 years. I'm the current president of Seymour Speakers, Vancouver's only high energy morning meeting.
Nice. And it was high energy. I do remember visiting very early in the morning. Appreciated that. It was fabulous. So I've heard stand-up comedy and even improv can be helpful for speakers. If you were to give a presentation, what would be the first thing you would tell us about how to use it in our speeches?
Take the time to pause. The only reason that I have done well in my comedy is because I first learned how to pause in my speaking. What I see with a lot of comedians is they're in a rush and they want you to get to the punchline, but while you're laughing, they're speaking. And then you miss what they're saying. So it is the power of the pause. It really is the power of the pause.
And we've heard that so much in Toastmasters, haven't we? The pause is very much evaluated and given as feedback. So that's great. So I'm looking forward to that workshop. We can do it online now, and you can give us some stand-up and improv help, because I've always thought that would be kind of fun. So improv, can you give us a little definition of what improv actually is?
Well, I mean, similar to table topics, right? Thinking on your feet.
Yeah.
Taking the moment to pause for that, 2-3 seconds in order for your thoughts to align so that they come out and they make sense. Improv's no different than that, right?
For sure.
It's anything that comes to your mind and then it gets delivered. But it's in the pause, in the taking your time.
Stellar advice. Thank you so much, Tanya. Nice to see you again. Kerry, on behalf of D41 and Community North Advanced Club, where are ya? Or come on down. Maybe
you
we should
see
be
me?
using that term. I have my timer pinned, so I can't see you, but I'm assuming everybody else can. Nod,
Right.
Louisa, if you can see him. Excellent. And tell us a little bit about your Toastmasters, how long you've been a Toastmaster, and why did you start?
Well, I've been in 25 years now, Mimi, and I started because I just didn't have confidence. I could talk to an individual one-on-one, but a third person would enter and I'd start looking down and feel unworthy. And as I got into the workforce, I realized that's not portraying a very confident image. So a friend asked me to join Toastmasters, and I'm a lifelong learner now. And my wife says I need to go because I still need to listen better.
You got the speaking down, but now the listening, hey?
There you go.
Love it. I wonder how many of us could say that, or our spouses could say that, for sure. So you talked about games, strategic games, and board games in your profile. And I talk to my kids about, you can really find out a lot about a person when you play a game with them, especially Monopoly. So I was curious, what for you talks about or reveals to you about your character when you play games?
I would say probably the game of chess. You have all these different pieces, and it's about thinking ahead. It's about strategy. It's about a goal at the end, but there's different ways and changes that happen along the way. And so I think that's a good game. It really brings out the idea of thinking ahead, of strategizing, of using your mind and trying to outwit someone.
That's amazing. So have you ever, I've seen people flip the board in Monopoly because they're so upset. Have you ever done that with the chessboard?
No, but we got bored
Oh,
for
good.
a while, and we took two chessboards and put them beside each other. And one of the moves was you could actually shift the board.
Oh.
So we added a different challenge to it, which is interesting, maybe frustrating too, I thought.
Kind of like Sheldon on Big Bang Theory, and he made the 3D chessboard.
Exactly.
Isn't that him? Yeah. Okay. Very good.
So.
Thank you so much, Kerry. Appreciate
You're
that.
welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye now. It's like I'm on the phone, right? Oh, this is so funny. It feels funny. Scott, on behalf of M94 and Blue Heron, come on down.
I am here. Can you hear me?
Can you hear the roaring clapping? Oh, that must have been weird to start your speech without hearing all the clapping and then, a natural end to the clapping, and then you can start your speech. That must have been fun. So tell us a little bit about your Toastmasters. Why did you start and how long ago?
Well, I like to say I dabbled in Toastmasters years ago at a corporate club and started a CC, but didn't get very far. And then I started back about 4.5, 5 years ago. And it was really, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. And I thought this is a good skill to have. And after I'd been doing it for a couple of years, I talked myself into an internal teaching position at work, part-time. So yeah, and it just
very cool. Very cool. I'm actually hearing quite a theme. Have you all noticed that, fellow Toastmasters? The hiatus in between, and then they came back again. That's exactly what I did as well. So those who live by their values inspire you. What would you say was your top 3 values?
I would say finding purpose. I would say, in fact, I have 8 of them on my phone, so let me just check.
Awesome.
You would think I would know these by now.
I thought you would have them ready to go.
Yeah. Purpose is the big one. I like to find focus on things. I like to go all in, and I like to collaborate with groups of people. I just think more gets done with groups of people where you have all kinds of different perspectives.
It's funny, fellow Toastmasters, because he put on his profile in the hobbies and interest spot. What else is there besides Toastmasters? So you can totally see where you're coming from with that. Anything else you'd like to say about your purpose and Toastmasters?
I don't know. I think the interesting thing I found with Toastmasters is everybody is trying to succeed together. It's not, aside from competitions that come up, the main thing in Toastmasters is everybody's pulling for everybody else. Yeah. And I just think that's a great way to grow.
Thank you so much, Scott. Appreciate that. Excellent. Bibi, on behalf of S26 and Vancouver Entrepreneurs. That's probably not the whole title of the club, but that's okay. We know what we're talking about. Bibi, are you with us?
Hello. Yes.
Hello. Nice to meet you. Give us a little snippet of your Toastmasters career, how long ago you started, and what was the other question I was asking people? Oh, why you started.
I've joined my club, VETC, in summer 2018. I just recently arrived, right after I arrived to Canada. My purpose was pragmatic in the beginning, networking, but in the end, I found a family.
Yeah, amazing how many people from other countries join clubs when they move to another country, and just for the networking. Absolutely. I'm pretty sure our district director mentioned that at the conference last year for herself as well. So mindfulness, you talked about in your speech, you also brought it up in your profile, is such a valuable skill as well, as I believe that. So I was curious to see about your mindfulness cooking.
Yes. So most of the time when we are cooking, we also consider that as a social or something, we're listening an audiobook, let me do cooking. But if you really find a time, and you only when you're washing dishes, wash your dishes. When you are cutting a carrot, cut a carrot. Just be like there in the moment. And it's such a great therapy, and it's just the process. That's, as I said, mindfulness is everywhere. You don't have to block a time and put it in another to-do list. Okay, I have to find a time for a yoga practice or meditation. It can be anything, like we all walk or cook or eat, right? So try to eat without talking or watching TV, just eat. Right?
Yes, and actually taste the food, the different flavors, and take the time to do that, and then you feel the fullness when you get to that point. That's amazing. How has that helped you with your transition to Canada?
Oh, it helped me a lot, because you think about, you plan everything, but going to another country is not my first move. I'm a nomad. And also, I'm not sure that I will stay here for my home is where I am. So
nice.
Yeah, but staying in the present moment and dealing with situations as they come up is a great skill to learn, and we all can learn it. So that's my message. And yeah.
Thank you so much. Very timely for what we're going through right now as a community and as a country, and as a, what was I trying to say, world. As the
whole world.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Bibi.
Thank you.
And those are our spectacular contestants for the 2020 International Speech Contest. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Woo! Thank you very much, Mimi. Are we ready for some results? There were absolutely no disqualifications for time, so congratulations to all contestants. So in third place, Matthew Wong.
We have the power to control our own focus.
In second place, Stacy Marshall.
The good time is now. The good time is this moment.
And drum roll, if we can try a drum roll. And in first place, Scott Hayward.
When the sun rises, you'll discover your path to spectacular success. This was a first.
Yes, it was a first.
And thank you for all of the folks who ran this contest. Great job.
Please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Hit the notification bell to make sure you don't miss any of our videos as we post going forward. We'll see you next time.